This is exciting. We're back. I zoomed in a little bit more this time because I just felt it was easier that way. No, when I watched it back the last time I did it, I felt that it was a little bit, you couldn't see my face, and I want you to see my face. But you might have noticed we got a new mic. It's actually not new. I've had it for many years. I just didn't know where it was. So we're gonna have better audio. RIP Tiny Mic. She did her best. I'm really excited now because I have access to my phone so I can actually look at stuff. But we need the blanket. Obviously, it's not cozy if we don't have a blanket. But I'm super excited because I have finally named this series. I'm still working on the branding a little bit, but I came up with a name. It came to me in spin class where all ideas come to me, and it's perfect. So you guys are hearing it first. The name of this weekly series where we talk shit, we chat about pop culture, really anything that's going on that I just wanna, the name is called Hyperfixated with Andie. And that is the most perfect name ever. Like, I cannot describe something that is more me because I get really into things and I research them too much. Hyperfixation is me. So we're just gonna give me an outlet for that. And that's what this is, Hyperfixated. So welcome to episode 2 of Hyperfixated with Andie. I had a bad day. Not a bad day. I never think of days as bad. I had a couple, I don't know what to do with my hands. I had a couple bad moments today, I think is the better way to say it. And I'll give a quick gist and then we'll move into the actual topics because I know I hate when YouTube video intros are way too long. But essentially, my sink broke last Sunday. Here's a photo of the sink. I dropped a plastic moisturizer container in my sink, as anyone does, and the corner just went bye. I was like, this is too much. This is too much for me. I had to buy a new sink, and I also had to get a plumbing company to come in and repair it. So this guy comes in today to install the sink, and it was just an absolute complete ordeal. But the funniest part of it all was he calls me in because he needs my help, and I should have said no when he asked for my help, but I just assumed it was he needed me. I just didn't assume it was what it was gonna be. I go into the bathroom, okay? I walk in, and he's like, I need you to hold the sink here while I push it up from underneath with the glue. And I'm like, is that gonna be hard? I don't know. I know I joke about it often, but I don't really have guns. He's like, no, it won't be hard. But then I look at the sink and there's nothing to hold on to. So I have to push the sink out to get a grip on it. So pushing against the sides, how do I explain this? It's gonna take this boot here. If this is the sink, I had to push against the side like that to get a grip through pressure, if that makes sense. Which the sink is 20 pounds. So that was not easy. So I'm shaking, every vein is bursting. I'm putting out my back. It's an ordeal. But the little twist here is that the man's head is underneath the sink. So if I drop it, I'm gonna kill this guy. So we're yelling at each other. I'm screaming. I'm like, I can't hold this anymore. I'm shaking. I'm like, I cannot do this. I can't do it. And he's like, don't drop it. You're gonna kill me. And I'm shaking, freaking out. He's freaking out because he thinks I'm about to either break his head or break his nose or whatever. We did it. Sink was all good. And so after he left, I called the plumbing company and was like, hey, that was not cute. That was not fun. And they berated me. And the guy tried to blame me because my sink was a 2-person install sink and I didn't tell them. I'm like, I'm not a plumber. I don't know. I called you guys, said I needed a sink installed. How were you supposed to know if it wasn't a 50 million foot sink or not? No one asked. He just gaslit me a lot. And it was frustrating. I just kept telling him I felt bad for his employee because you guys set him up for failure. If you had just asked me what kind of sink it was, you could have just sent 2 people and it would have taken half the time. Anyway, besides the point, I got yelled at and I almost killed a man with a sink today. So we're buzzing. But let's just get right into it before I talk anymore. If you're new, how this works, we have 2 topics every episode. Topic number 1 is a personal therapy rant sesh, okay? And then topic number 2 is something pop culture and gossipy. Yeah. So I guess we're just gonna get right into it. All right. Sorry, my camera got all bunked there. Now we can finally get into topic number 1. And it is fatal flaw theory and adult friendships. And if you don't know what fatal flaw theory is, I think it was Tinx. Let me look it up. We're going to get a definition of it. What is the fatal flaw friend theory? Okay. The rule, because it's more a rule than a theory, as Tinx says, so it was Tinx, states that everyone has their own fatal flaw, or a flaw that is going to cause you the most distress. Once you realize each friend's fatal flaw, you either have to accept it and choose to not be bothered by it or rethink the friendship. If the fatal flaw is truly unacceptable and something you can't look past, like constantly needing validation, telling harmful white lies, or always canceling plans at the last minute, the friendship should probably be reevaluated. Otherwise, you'll constantly be mad at a friend for a simple factor of their personality that you're already aware of and can expect. In other words, identify what irks you the most about each friend and then decide if it's something you want to accept and not let bother you, or if it's something worth rethinking the friendship over. That is fatal flaw friend theory. That is so hard to say. And I love it. The first time I heard of this thing, it completely changed my outlook on friendships and people in my life. And not in a negative way. Like, I don't really like how this ends off with saying that you need to go like look at every one of your friends and find that what irks you about them. Like, I don't agree with that. But it made me more chill. When it comes to friendships as an adult, compared to when you were younger, everyone is a lot more selfish, which is good. As you get older, you can talk to every person who's like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever. They will tell you that the only thing that matters in the world is you, and they don't give a fuck. Like, they don't get embarrassed. They don't get cringy. Like, they do not give a fuck, because as you get older, you realize that you are truly the only person that matters in your life. And that's very clear in adult friendships as you get older when you compare them to like your college or like high school or middle school, whatever friendships. People are just their own entities. You're not a group as much as you were once, as you are individual people who like to do stuff together. I kind of lost my train of thought there, so hopefully this connects. But the reason I bring up adult friendships here is that fatal flaw theory is what helped me gap the expectations of a friend when you're a teenager to your expectations for a friend when you're an adult, because the reality is they differ greatly. What you can ask of people as you get older greatly decreases from what you can ask of someone that you were best friends with in high school or college. And there's always exceptions to the rule, so don't come in here being like, oh, what about this, what about that? There's always exceptions, like the Valentine's Day movie. Is that it? He's just not that into you. There's always exceptions to the rule. But for the most part, as you get older and people find partners or they have kids or they don't do that and they choose a separate part of their life or a separate path and they have careers and so on, and they're being asked of by people who are seniors or demanding things in their life, like, you as a friend, your expectations of people they have to decrease. And again, the reason I bring up adult friendships and the fatal flaw theory is because, sorry if I keep saying it like very enunciated, it's just very difficult to say in one row. It's a mindset that just helped me understand my friends better, and also helped me from expending energy that I didn't need to expend, I guess is the best way to say it. So this is all my opinion or my view on it, but I just want to share how this theory shaped my mindset with adult friendships and where I started to it just helped me adjust to the world of adult friendships. So if some of this doesn't apply to you, it's a theory or a rule from a TikToker. It's not that big a deal. So as I do, I'm going to share a story to connect you guys with what I'm talking about. In high school, I had a very, very close group of 15 friends. We did everything together. I'm talking Monday through Sunday. We did absolutely everything together. We would hang out weekdays. We all played sports. And we were best friends. I genuinely am not kidding you. We did everything together. And it was really, really fun. And when I got to university, my best girlfriends all went away to school. And our group kind of got separated among different universities and schools and so on. And because of this, the group hangouts that were the standard for our group no longer happened. They were more by circumstance because people were really busy, this and that, and people were starting to respect that you're adults, like you're growing up and you have demands and you have expectations of yourself and so on. And so I would go on Instagram, for example, and I would see that they were all studying together and I'd feel like shit. I would have the worst FOMO ever. And I'd be upset with these people, very, very upset with these people. But I shouldn't have been upset with these people. It was not justified to be upset with these people. They ran into each other in the hallway at school. But essentially, I was kind of secluded from this group and they'd still invite me to stuff, but it just wasn't the same because we all had different lives and different demands and so on. And it wasn't the same. And I was really, really, really emotionally hit by that. And I remember talking to a therapist about this because I was sad. And the therapist said to me, "Do you think it's personal?" And I said, "I do feel like it's personal." And she looked at me and she goes, "Get over yourself." I'll never forget it. Ever in my entire life. She looks at me and goes, "Get over yourself." And I was like, whoa. And she says, I don't mean it in the way that you're a selfish person. But when you graduate high school and you're in college and people's lives change, they become more selfish. And it has nothing to do with you. And once you realize this, everything hurts a lot less because it has nothing to do with you. And from that day on, that's when I started to go into this world and view of what adult friendships are, that they're a lot more about circumstance, that you can have a best friend you don't talk to every day. And what it really came down to was, who are the people that you adore and love in your life? Who are the people that don't eat your energy? Like, who are those people that don't make you feel exhausted every time you leave? And who are the people that you can do absolutely nothing with? And once I kind of realized who those people were and what our friendships were like, life became a lot more fun and a lot easier. When you realize it has nothing to do with you and it's not personal to yourself, that's an adult friendship. People make calls. People have to cancel stuff because they have to go to the DMV. People can't go out on a Friday night because the hangover's too hard on a Saturday. And it's not because they don't like you. It's just because they get anxiety now and they just don't want to deal with it on a Saturday. And this was really fascinating to me to finally take a step back and go, no one thinks about you as much as you think about yourself. And the reason I share this story with Fatal Flaw Theory is when I sat down and started to evaluate, like, who are the people in my life that I truly love via circumstance. When I say circumstance, by the way, I don't mean like, I would say your friendships as when you're younger are actually more environmental. Like, you're just friends with someone because you go to high school with them. You'd never be friends with them outside of high school. When I say adult friendships are more by circumstance, I just mean in the fact that, like, when you have a circle of people around you that works with your life and your lifestyle, you just are more likely to stay friends with those people. I'm not saying like your best friend's gonna be your coworker. That's not what I'm saying. But you'll probably see your coworker more than you see your best friend. Anyway, you get the point. I just mean in the sense with your life and your circumstance, your friends as an adult will be people that fit with that circumstance, not that you're friends with someone due to your circumstance. Okay, moving on. Going back to when I made those 3 points of like people that aren't energy sucks, people that you can do nothing with. When I had those 3 points that based on what this therapist was kind of like yelling at me and stuff, that is exactly when I found Fatal Friend Theory. And it was so damn cool. Because where I used to get very stressed about other people when they would do things that I didn't like, when you apply Fatal Flaw Theory to it, everything just is a lot less stressful or a lot less irritating. Everything's a lot less annoying. Because essentially all you're doing is prepping your brain. You're prepping your expectations. You're prepping your mindset about an individual you love. It's like studying for an exam, going into the exam, and what you just studied is the entire test. Like, that's how Fatal Flaw Theory works in my mind. To give a broad example, and this has happened to me with a couple people, but I am a stickler for being on time. This is like very like my thing. I am 10 to 15 minutes early to everything or right on time. I want to die when I'm late. If I'm meeting someone, like I am on the ball 3 minutes late or 10 minutes early. Like I would never make someone sit around for 30 minutes. Like, that would eat me up alive. To me, one of the biggest disrespects you can have for another individual is being late. And I've had friends throughout my life from middle school to university to whatever who were always late for stuff. Always. And it would drive me up the wall. And Fatal Flaw Theory, it just relieves you of that stress. Like I said, it's like studying for that test and all the answers being on it. So with these friends, what I wish I had done at the time and what I now know is how, and it actually is what I do now and have done for a couple of years, is that if I know someone that is a constantly late individual and it's a flaw I'm going to accept with this person, then I just need to figure it out because it is something that will never change about them. They literally cannot alter this part of their personality. So how do I manage it with myself so I don't drain my body of so much energy being stressed about them always being late? I've accepted the flaw. How do I maneuver it? And it's pretty simple. You either tell them to be there 30 minutes earlier than they're supposed to be, or you just show up late, or you just wait until they say they leave. There's a lot of ways to do it where you just kind of have to suck up your pride and like manage it. But it's such a great way to reduce stress and reduce how much energy escapes your body with anger and frustration. Because when you know you have that friend who's always late and you are always prepared for it, it's a lot less irritating. And like they said here, every person has a flaw, has a fatal flaw, every single one in every single friendship. And it's a flaw that someone views about you from like an external standpoint. And so when you look at these people who are always late, they probably looked at me and thought I had a stick up my ass because I would get so annoyed because I'd get so frustrated that they didn't follow the schedule. Yet that was my fatal flaw. And they accepted it. And when I look back at it, some of these friends handled it in the way of like, they just wouldn't get mad if I got mad at them. They just sat there and were like, yep, I was late. That's who I am. And we move on. Well, other friends would get mad at me. And when those friends would get mad at me because I was mad at them for being late, that was a friendship that neither of us could accept each other's fatal flaw. It's such an interesting thing to look back on when you look at friendships that have ended and you look back and you go, we just couldn't accept each other's fatal flaws. And that's fine. That's totally fine. That's okay. Like, everything's good, especially when you're an adult and you realize you're not required to accept anyone's fatal flaw. And it becomes just a lot less stressful. Life becomes a lot easier when you realize that you don't have to be friends with everyone and you don't have to be liked by everyone when you have these adult friendships, when the expectations are lower. So I guess where I'm going with this, because it's been kind of a random journey throughout the story, but if you're someone that's either like mid-20s, late 20s, and you're really feeling a little bit weird right now because you don't understand your friendships, I highly recommend planting the fatal flaw theory in your mind when you start to get irritated with a friend, when you start to get annoyed with someone, when someone starts to frustrate you. Now, I'm not saying don't support your friend. Like, don't be that person that's just like, I don't want to deal with your shit. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you have someone with a fatal flaw that'll never change, no matter how much work you put in, no matter what you do, you always have to make that call on whether or not the balance of the benefits of that friendship is worth it. And once you accept that, you cannot let yourself stay frustrated. That is the key part. If you're going to accept someone as a certain kind of friend in your life, especially as an adult, you have to make that call that you did that. That was your responsibility. You made that decision, and you can't let them destroy you and make you sad and frustrated. You are going to set yourself up for failure if you do that. And that's hard. Don't get me wrong. That's not an easy thing to do. Telling yourself to just accept something that annoys you, you really need to learn to let go of your pride in order to do that, to accept that. However, on the other hand, if the benefits don't actually balance the negatives and you find yourself being exhausted around this person and your energy is sucked away and you cannot really maneuver the circumstances in a way that helps you feel good about your friendship, then you have to go. Because I've had friends in my life, this is many years ago, that I really had to sit down and go, the negative attributes from this friendship, both sides, both ways, not just them to me to them, because I couldn't be a good friend to them when they frustrated me so much. These negatives just entirely outweighed the positives of our friendship. And it's at those points where you need to make that call that this isn't worth it anymore. Their fatal flaws, whatever it is, my fatal flaws too, do not match. The balance, the imbalance is going the wrong way. And it's just a lot less stressful when you look at it from that perspective of the everyone has a flaw that doesn't match with another person's expectations or another person's view on life or another person's values. And if you can accept it, then you need to let it go. And you can't let it suck energy from your life. But if you can't accept it, then you need to let the whole person go. Okay, pause. I'm incredibly sorry if this is something that irritates you because it drives me up the wall. But for some reason, my camera in the second half, like when I restarted it because it hit its max recording time, it doesn't focus consistently on me. I think it's because my knees are in front of my body. So I'm sorry. Hopefully it doesn't bother you. Just look away and listen, or blur your eyes and have the whole thing be blurry the whole time. But it won't happen again, I promise. But adult friendships themselves are hard enough to adjust to, because you just don't really understand what's going on or why they are the way they are when you're so used to these very enmeshed teenage university friendships, and suddenly it's just not like that, and you get very mad and you get very frustrated at your group because it's changing, it's evolving, they're becoming their own people, they're getting jobs, they're having families, and so on. And I found out that I actually preferred adult friendship expectations with the fatal flaw theory applied so much more. It's the approach to friendships where I myself, who was someone who easily got sucked into group and mob mentality, I find myself being way more me and making way more decisions that I want to make as an adult now versus as a kid, which of course, that obviously happens. But knowing the difference in responsibilities people have in their life and how we just don't feel like we always owe each other something all the time. And it is a really cool feeling to sit and look at people in your life doing something without you, for example, and not feeling bad about it, because you can look at it from a perspective now where it has nothing to do with you. So I guess to wrap this thing up, because we're babbling here, we're really babbling here, I highly suggest and highly recommend, I'm not a therapist, I'm a regular person, but learning to not let people suck energy out of you for being independent and being themselves in a way that they no longer want to change for someone because they're a fucking adult, and learning to maneuver people and how they are and how their lives are, and just expect it and give them kind of what they give you. And not in a petty way. That's what I really want to make that clear. None of this is petty. Like, oh, they didn't invite me to lunch, I'm not going to invite them to lunch. Not that kind of thing. But just when you start to realize that you are your own person and everyone is their own person and everyone has their own world that you are a side character in, accepting people as they are becomes a lot easier. Learning to see that people will never act exactly how you want them to act, and it is in your hands on your own to decide whether or not you want to welcome that into your life. It just makes everything easier. Like, once you make that call and make that decision, you're like, okay, this person, not for me. I can't accept their fatal flaw. It's really nice. Once you stop blaming people for how they are and realize that it's on you and your own actions to invite them into your life, it's fucking easy. It's fucking great. Like, sorry for swearing, but it's fucking great because the power is then in your hands. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I hope it did. And now we're going to move on to topic number 2. Less pop culture-y, kind of pop culture-y, but like an interesting little thing. I'm not going to rant about it. We're going to be very quick and very efficient, but it was an interesting take that I've seen on a highly topical thing right now. Okay, so topic number 2 is about influencers and relatability and misogyny. Jazz hands. Okay, so the reason this was like in my notes for this week was because I was on Instagram and I think it's Eric. She's an influencer if you don't know who she is. She's this girl, hilarious. She posted on her stories, it was so funny. She posted on her stories a picture of like her wrist and it had a bunch of bracelets on it and a watch. And apparently someone had asked her where she got the watch. So she linked the watch and she said it in like text below and said, the watch is a little pricey. And I didn't click the link because it's a gold watch. I only wear silver. So I just like didn't click it. But I'm sitting there and I swipe through to the next story, or I tap to the next story. And it's her like with some like filter on it where her eyes are really big. And she's going, OMG guys, I know 20K is a lot. I didn't mean like it's a little pricey. Like, she basically was just saying, guys, $20,000 for a Cartier watch, that is a very expensive purchase. Like, when I said it's a little pricey, I didn't mean it like getting in a Aritzia tank top versus a tank top from Mardine's. Like, she just wrote this thing and it was just funny because it wasn't a big deal. Like, what happened was not a big deal. When you tap through, I would have hated to see her DMs after this. Oh my God. She went on this like incredible rant. I really like when she does these because they're always like, I agree with 99% of what she says. But she went on this rant that was about how relatability is this new requirement only for women. And I've never thought of it that way. And she reposted this thing on her story and it was some quote and I can't find it. Hopefully I found it and it's here. But it essentially was like, relatability is the new death of successful females on social media or in life in general. And it was so fascinating. Because then it went on to like saying why as women reach success and why as women, especially in like, whether it's content creation or whatever it is, lawyers and so on, why as they kind of develop this success, people get really bitter about it when they start to capitalize on it, whether it's buying a purse or a $20,000 watch or buying a beautiful home or going on beautiful trips, and people turn on them. I remember when Alex Earl was blowing up, there were so many TikToks that were like, can't wait for in like 2 months when everyone turns on Alex Earl for some reason, which hasn't happened, which I find very funny. But when you view it from that perspective of it's almost a storyline that we all have seen played out where a girl is on the internet, reaches success, and I'm not talking about ones with like general terrible scandals or have done something terrible. I'm talking about your basic whatever influencer, reaches success and people get pissed off that they're no longer relatable. And I never thought of it from like a female perspective, being like this is the death of successful female influencers, because it's this, or any kind of successful female, because why do you have to remain relatable? And that's what all Ken kept saying. It was like, I make good money, and I bet you Ken makes a ton of fucking money. That girl, she had a shoe with Steve Madden. I bet she makes bank. I bet you her ROI is huge too. It's probably very much worth it. Like with Alex Earl, when people find out that Alex Earl charges $250,000 a post, because it's fucking worth it. Like, it's absolutely worth it. Alex Earl sold out the Drunk Elephant drops across North America. Like, if all Drunk Elephant had to do is pay Alex Earl $250,000 and they made millions of dollars, that's a great investment. Anyway, so Ken was just kind of posting these stories about how like, why do I need to remain relatable? You guys want me to have the success. She was saying when she was smaller, everyone would comment like, you deserve more, like you deserve to go on these brand trips, you deserve to do this. And as she started to do this stuff, people were like, wait, I don't relate to you anymore. I don't get you. You're not on my level anymore, so you're evil. And it's a female thing, because she was saying that, I don't know if she said it or a post came up after. Anyway, it basically was just like, as women garner success and they lose this piece of connection, people get very critical. Whereas with men, it's almost excitement. So, and don't get me wrong, there are exceptions to this. There are people that build a brand based off these followers, because I don't agree with the term that the followers pay your bills. I don't really think that's true, because the creator still has to create good content regardless. But I see your followers as your investors. That's how I see followers. I see followers as investors in your company. So what you do, you have to keep your investors happy. You have to be respectful to your investors. You have to connect with your investors. You have to give back to your investors. That's how I see every single number on my page is an investor in my company. And it's in my best interest to make my investors happy. So when I say there are people who gain success and lose their investors because they're no longer relatable, I think that's a little bit different. I think there's a difference between people who garner a lot of success and forget about their original investors and don't acknowledge them and kind of change their persona to match their new success. That's a disconnect. That is, I wouldn't say the word is they're now unrelatable. I would say they're just shitty at keeping connection with their audience. That is completely different versus someone like a Ken who has garnered so much incredible success in such an amazing way, and people are saying that she's not relatable anymore, yet she gives her investors so much. She gives her viewers so much. She gives her audience. And like I say, I've said it 100 times, but she gives her investors what they need. And so the argument of Ken not being relatable anymore, like, it just doesn't make sense, I guess. Because A, that was never her brand. That's part of it too. But B, you invested in her to give her this success. You following her, you commenting, you liking, you DMing her, you buying her stuff. That's you investing in Ken so she can reach this level of success. And when you get angry that she did, and she's buying a $20,000 Cartier watch, you're just kind of going back on your word. And I just find that kind of parasocial thing very fascinating, and it's very odd to me. When you bring in the female side of it, that's what's crazy, because I saw all of Ken's stories and I was tapping through, and then guess who came up next? Noah Beck. And it was his campaign with, I forget who, it was some crazy designer. And the comments were all so positive. And I actually found myself reacting in a way going, oh my God, that's so cool. That's so cool. Good for him. Like, how exciting. Yet I haven't always felt that way when I see females reaching that success. And I don't get me wrong, I step myself back on a little bit. Like, when I see like an influencer invited to like a Louis Vuitton event, I'll be like, oh wow, like they're in a different league now. And it's almost like a little bit negative, and that's embarrassing for me to say, and I'm working on that. Yet when you see a man do it, it's like, unreal. That guy's a boss. That guy's an absolute boss. Play Taylor Swift the man right now. But when you bring it back to the relatability, like almost requirement or trend, it is almost an exclusive ask of female influencers. And it's crazy. And I really had never thought of it like that before, being this unasked for, never committed to social contract. That's the word I was looking for. Of women in online or in real life, in their real jobs, where the second you reach this like major success, it's almost inevitable that a group of people will turn against you because you're no longer relatable, whatever that means. And Ken's points, like, again, topic number 2 is just supposed to be a pop culture thing we discuss, open air, whatever. But I had just never viewed any of it in that perspective before, because there are influencers I follow that I followed them because they were the girl next door, or I liked that they did this, this, and this, and they've evolved into something else. And I don't feel that connection with them anymore because of this, which is fine, but that's no reason to be angry at them or think they're a bad person or think this or that. Instead, they just don't connect with me on that same level because their content or their purpose online has changed or their brand has changed. Like, I no longer want to invest in them because I don't connect with their content. But when someone just starts to garner success and live a more expensive life, if they're still creating stuff that I find interest in, to me, that's still relatable because it's interesting. I think a really good example is Emma Leger. She's a Canadian content creator, fabulous. You guys might have heard of her. She's if you're in the fashion Instagram, TikTok space, or interested in that, you've probably heard of her. But I've followed her she used to be West Coast kind of gal, I think. I've followed her for 7 years. Like, I've followed her forever. And when I followed her, I felt kind of a connection to her because I don't know, she was Canadian, she was wearing the same brands I could afford, so on and so on. And now she's going on trips with Tom Ford. I can't relate to her life in any sense of the word. I cannot relate to her life, but what she does is really entertaining, so I like it, and I find it interesting. But she kept us, the followers, her investors, interested continuously in what she was doing. And like, she gives the investors, her followers, a reason to keep investing. And even though she's on like some crazy trip with Tom Ford, like, I don't feel a disconnect from her content because of that. I'm just more interested in what she's doing. But I could see her getting, over the past few years, responses about her not being relatable anymore. And I'd be fascinated to read her DMs and to see that kind of perspective on it. But Ken's story was just really interesting. And this is definitely like a big thing in pop culture when we talk about influencers as they gain success and lose that girl next door energy with women specifically. And I just never thought of it from the women's female side. It just never really crossed my mind. So I just thought that was a really cool thing for Ken to run through. Because it made me check myself a little bit. Because even me as a woman can be blind to some of this stuff and garner like negative emotions towards people who don't deserve it just because they did a good job. Okay, yeah, that's it for topic number 2. I just thought it was so interesting. Such an interesting way to view the whole relatability discussion and discourse. So it may not be as pop culture-y as Liam Payne is sober, but it's still cool. So I hope you guys liked this episode. I hope you guys liked the series name, Hyperfixated with Andie, because that is me. I think of things and then I don't stop thinking about them. And how cute would merch be that just says Hyperfixated? Adorable. Anyway, we might need to get 1,000 views on a video before we can do, merch, but nonetheless, think big, right? Think big. Okay, well, I love you guys very, very much. I hope you have a fabulous weekend, and bye!